Listener discretion is advised. Hello and welcome to Scary Time, the podcast that helps you find new, emerging, and undiscovered scary and paranormal podcasts. I'm Greg, the host and curator of Scary Time. Congratulations, we have made it to 2023. Thank you so much for being such a critical component of the success of Scary Time in 2022. I know that together we found lots of great indie, scary, and paranormal creators. And I hope 2022 was just as good for you as it was for Scary Time. Now, as we go into 2023, I have a special favor to ask you. Only 40% of Scary Time listeners actually hit that follow button. So if you could take a second right now and just hit that follow button. That way, every week you get an independent, scary, and paranormal episode right in your playlist. All right, let's get on with today's episode. Today's episode is from Mission Spooky. Mission Spooky is a bi-weekly podcast where history meets the peculiar and the paranormal. Mission Spooky's been on Scary Time a few times. We love them. They always get great response from being featured, so if you haven't followed them yet, now's a great time. This episode is called The Dover Demon and Ghost Stories with Paul Bestall. If you like today's episode, make sure to check out the episode description for links to subscribe. All right, let's get this show started.
Begin.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
3, 2, 1.
Spook.
We are gathered here as advisors, as scientists.
The kind of place we expect a ghost to like to wander around.
Hey, we all know that we're going down, baby.
I'll help you. I'm something of a witch.
Welcome to Mission Spooky. I'm your fantastic host, JC. With me today, as per usual, the queen of everything herself, Kiki, and our local cryptid enthusiast, Cord. And is that a British flag I see?
Oh,
This is where you take over. Oh, okay.
They're finally coming to take us back. Thank God.
again.
All right, so today we have the brilliant, the one, the only, the quote, Johnny Carson of the paranormal, Mr. Paul Bestall from Mysteries and Monsters podcast. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here with you.
We are so excited because I am a huge fan of Mysteries and Monsters. Did a binge. Might have seen the numbers go up just slightly there. I think I listened to 36 episodes in a row. It was, yeah.
Yeah, Zooks.
Yeah, it was a lot of hours.
Yeah, I do go on a bit.
I went back in time. I went back in time in my DeLorean.
He's like, I didn't think I rambled that much. Jeez.
No, I do.
Being self-aware is a very important trait, you know?
Admitting is the first step.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It is. Acceptance always helps.
Today, we are going to be talking about something cool we have not talked about yet, and this was requested by Paul, which is the Dover Demon. And in case our listeners don't know which Dover we're talking about, because there are many, this is going to be Dover, Massachusetts, because I honestly thought it was going to be Dover, Delaware, but it wasn't. That took a hot minute of, geography, yay. And then I had a special request because, as I've said many, many times before on this podcast, my family is originally from the Bradford area of England. And so you have a couple stories you're going to tell, which I'm very excited about.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead, guys. Who wants to go first? Are we going to talk about Dover Demon first, or?
I would like to talk about Dover Demon first.
Yeah, I actually did research about the Dover Demon, which is more than I've done for literally any other episode we have ever recorded.
Thing.
I am so proud of you, JC. I'm going to give you a star.
I get a star. It's my first one. We've been recording for 3 years.
If I didn't give that last puppy treat to frickin' Reggie, I would have given it to you right now.
I don't want a puppy treat.
It's turducken flavored.
Oh, okay. I'm interested.
All right, guys. So Dover Demon. Come on. Who's going to start? You guys did your homework.
In Dover, but not hear me out, a demon in any way, shape, or
Mm.
form.
That you know of.
Oh, no, I 100% know it's not a demon. I'd be willing to
Okay.
stake my career in the paranormal, as big as it is, that it's not an actual demon.
What a blow to society. JC leaving the paranormal community.
I'm gonna go cry in a corner for 12 minutes.
Hey, you're just as big as I am, bud.
True.
All right, come on, let's go. JC,
Oh,
tell
that
us about it.
was
What was the sightings like? Do you know about the sightings? How many years ago was it? What year was it?
well, it was when you were about 23 back in the 70s.
God.
Incorrect.
What do you mean incorrect?
I was not 20 in the 70s.
Oh, but it did happen in the 70s.
yes.
I'm like, did I get the decade wrong?
Starting out
It's
decades off.
so
yeah.
bad.
I thought you were going to impress me and tell us all it was April the 21st and 22nd of 1977.
No, I'm not that good.
Okay.
She's like, I did research, immediately outclassed.
Yeah.
Who was the chief researcher? Very, very famous cryptozoologist.
The
Mhm.
I don't remember names. Come on, you guys know I'm not good at this. Lauren Coleman. There it is. I wrote
Very
it
good.
down.
Okay, good for you. Keep going.
I'm not used to doing research, so like having to go back and forth and organize it. Oh, this is rough. Kiki, how do you do it?
I write it out.
Yeah, I wrote some things like Dover Demon, not a demon.
Oh my God.
Not a moose either.
Why don't you go? I'm done. I'm gonna go cry.
I'm done being shamed.
No, I'm never done being shamed. I need a break.
Well, I like stories like the Dover Demon because there's always some strange things that go on in certain small towns in the US. I've always been really attracted to these really odd little creatures that turn up for no reason, and the Dover Demon's definitely one of them. It's like the Enfield Horror or the Fresno Nightcrawlers. They're just these really odd creatures that turn up. Some are real or allegedly real, and some clearly aren't. But the Dover Demon's a very odd one, and like JC says, it's probably most famous for being one of Lauren Coleman's first ever cases, which he covered in his Mysterious America book. So it's an odd one because it's one of those that just happens over two or 3 days, and that's it. It's done. It's finished. It's all over, and enough's enough.
Right. And I think that's what is so weird about it for me. I did, man, I'm going to start off like on a really bad foot here because I listened to a couple other podcasters talking about Dover Demon because I always do that too. Read the stuff, listen to what other people have to say. And I won't throw anybody into the bus, but there was one podcast that wanted to talk about the possibilities of Dover Demon somewhere else. So I was really intrigued by that. I was like, oh, because that made sense. I mean, we'll kind of get into a little bit about the sightings, but one of the things at the end of it is that it seems like everyone saw them like in a line, like in a like if you looked on a map, it was like one after another as if it was traveling. And then you have this shows up in Rochester, New York, then a little bit of ways away from Dover, Massachusetts, but it's possible. And I don't know if you heard about this one, Paul, but it's the Beast of Purple Trail.
No, I've not heard of that.
That's probably a good thing. Yeah, that's where Kiki's just gonna get out the gate and be like, "We're gonna talk about the demon, but let's get this out of the way because Beast of Purple Trail is not real, guys. I hate to say it. Seems as though somebody made a creepypasta and put it up on the cryptozoology wiki. I did a lot of research on this, tried to find more information about it because I thought it was very intriguing that it miraculously looked very similar to the Dover Demon. And that is because someone took a picture of the Dover Demon and put it on the website as the Beast of the Purple Trail.
Oh my God. But
at least they had enough sense to be like, someone kind of questioned that on Reddit. And then the person was like, oh yeah, I couldn't find a picture of what it looks like. So I just used this as reference. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Seems fair.
Are no pictures at all. Not even drawn out, nothing. It's described as an alien-like creature that, quote, resembles the Dover demon. About the only true thing I got out of this is that it says that in 2017 there's a storm that comes and that there's supposedly this archway that leads you through the opening of the Purple Trail. Purple Trail is supposed to be a walking trail in the Durand Eastman Park, and it says Rochester, New York. That's true. Only there is no Purple Trail in the Durand Eastman Park, guys. It's actually in a different park that's a 13-minute drive away from the other one. So that also makes me a little suspect that they couldn't even get the actual location right. Couldn't find any pictures of this archway, whether it was there prior to the storm or after. Then there's a claim that some mysterious hands remade the archway. Yeah, I don't have any pictures of the remade archway either. There's no witness statements. I got nothing. Yeah. So I'm gonna say in my mind that if the Dover demon sightings are correct, then yeah, I think they just disappeared. I think whatever it was just disappeared. I don't think it went anywhere else, which makes it even more mysterious to me because, somebody was trying to connect some dots there with a fake cryptid. And
no, someone would do that? Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah.
No one makes fake TikTok cryptid videos either. Never seen one.
I haven't done that even as a joke. That's
Bigfoot sign.
I don't even have to search them out. People send me them and go, "Have you seen this?" No.
That's what JC does to us.
so.
Oh, it's you, is it?
So right out the bat, before we even get into what happened with these sightings, do you guys think that these one-timer cryptid appearances and stuff like this one and Flatwoods Monster and stuff, do you think that's more like a kind of getting into Henry Zabrowski territory here, like psychic phenomena, since they're never seen again? You know what I mean? Is this a multiple people having the same psychic phenomena, or do you think this is might be a real entity, I guess?
For me, I'll go first because I'm the least educated, so I'll set the bar very low, and then Kiki and Paul can give their opinions. I don't know if I'd consider it psychic phenomenon. I would say it's in my opinion, probably fae or extraterrestrial. So I'm not saying it's a gray because I don't think it fits certain characteristics of a gray alien, but for the Dover demon, I would vote that it's some kind of fae and or Native American folklore creature. I'll get into that stuff later. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
What do you mean what?
You actually, wow. Okay. Because we did that whole episode on Puckwudgies and you were very anti Puckwudgie and
no, but then I had a Puckwudgie encounter that next fucking night.
Okay.
And I changed my tune, Kiki.
You learned
we had a whole episode about how I learned my lesson and I'll never talk that kind of shit again.
Now he takes the subject extremely seriously.
Yeah, I drove 3 hours north into some crazy wooded area and didn't realize what I was doing. Listen to that episode. Somewhere down below. Don't remember the episode number.
It's down there somewhere. You just got to listen to all of them till you find it.
Yeah, wow. Just search for the Puckwudgie. It's that one.
Well, okay. I'm actually interested in what Paul thinks. I'm going to hold mine for later.
I think JC's hit on something there because I think, along with, as Cord mentioned, the Flatwoods Monster, I tend to think because of its uniqueness, I feel it would be more explainable as some kind of extraterrestrial visitor, personally.
Right. I would tend to agree.
I think because it's so odd, and because it's not reappeared anywhere, really, because this is the often, as you mentioned about diving into these strange Purple Trail stories that have no basis in any fact or witnesses or anything, that because it's so odd, it tends to... Because even when you talk about psychic phenomena or the fae or whatever, they tend to have a trend, or there will be certain types of creatures that are seen over and over again all around the world or wherever people have these belief structures. And so because of this creature and its description of looking, I think once again, it's one of those that people say, well, it looks a bit like this. Yeah, but it doesn't look just like it. It's different enough to be unique. And I think that's what always stood out to me about this particular case is the fact that it is rather unusual. Yes, it looks a bit like a couple of other things, but what other people report don't act or move in the way this creature did, especially as Will Bartlett, the first guy that saw it climbing over that wall.
Yeah.
Who also is one of those amazing witnesses that you have who seems to be quite good at drawing, which I've always been very annoyed about. These witnesses. Not only have they seen a cryptid, they're very talented artists, which is a double whammy for people like me. So maybe that's why he saw it, because it knew it would be able to render it so beautifully.
I mean, fair. I guess to explain for listeners who haven't seen the picture yet that he's referring to, it's a very good drawing. It looks very close to a gray alien, but it's on all fours and it has these big spindly freaking fingers, and it's like wrapping its fingers around everything instead of just like walking on stuff. It almost looks like it has 4 hands instead of 2 feet and 2 hands the way he drew it. Like,
I also feel like the head is a little different than a gray alien. Like it looks more like a light bulb than just like an oval.
It looks more bottom heavy than
And I'll put links to those photographs too, since that's, you have to really see it. So Bartlett's sighting, when he sees this, he's kind of seeing it in headlights. And he thought it originally was a cat or a dog, but then it was the spindly fingers that seemed to be holding on to a rock like that it was on top of. And that's what definitely set it apart. It wasn't to him. This is not a dog. This is not a cat. This is some weird thing. And he was with other people. And I thought this was the one where the friends turned around and went back, or is that I heard that somewhere else and I didn't write it down after I was like, shoot.
No, they did. They went back and it had gone.
Okay, so that's the first one, right? Because I know there's like multiple sightings. I thought the first one was the one where they actually turned around and went back. But they didn't get out of the car.
Yeah.
That was the thing. It had, he said, a sandpapery like skin texture and that it was a peach color.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just really super weird looking. And that elongated shape of the face, which you'll see when I share the drawing of it. So yeah, just super weird looking. But yeah, you do think alien in nature, and that's what set him off especially, was this is not normal. This is not supposed to look this way. It also had big eyes, very round, lidless eyes that were supposedly like a orange color.
No, green eyes. I thought it was green eyes.
He said it was orange. Yeah.
Orange.
Yes.
Other people said green. That was.
Yep.
Yeah,
You'll get a different take on the eyes from different people. His was orange, so I thought I'll get into that later.
Did they think it was a cat because of like eye shine, or did they mention anything about that? Like,
I think it was because the size was about like a cat to small dog, and they just saw something moving in the dark as they're driving, and so they just assumed it was one of those two things. And then as the light shone on it, they're like, "That's not."
Gotcha.
At least that's how I took it.
I'll get into at the end for the explanations of what other people thought it might be. Oh, Paul, you and I, yeah, you're gonna laugh at that because I'm sure you've seen the quote explanations of what it might be, and it's always the same stuff over and over again.
I think it's a Wendigo, actually.
Oh,
you're right. You're right. I'm sorry.
Again,
it's a skinwalker, guys.
Don't get me started. Just calm down.
Yeah, if this happened now, people would say it'd be a chupacabra.
Yes.
I was trying to make that joke earlier too.
He was. Yeah. Right before you came on, Paul, I literally made that joke about the show. I was like,
The picture does have a bit of a resemblance, like smaller eyes and less spiky, but
No, what you see here is the Northern American chupacabra.
Massachusetts genus.
Right. Hey, don't knock it. That's sort of funny in a way, because what if I'm just, you got to think about it. So this first sighting, this is April 21st, 1977. I was not 23, JC. I was a kid. Thank you. Bill Bartlett's 17 at the time that he sees this. It's about 10:30 at night too, just so we get the feel for what's going on here. Because the next one is John Baxter, and he's going to be seeing this about 2 hours after Bartlett's sighting around midnight. And he's walking on a road. The first one, I forgot to tell you guys, that was on Farm Street in Dover, and then he sees it on Miller Hill Road. A lot of people that have talked about this have sort of made fun of it a little bit, but I don't know anything about Dover. I can only tell you what would happen here. I live out in the woods, so there's no way that a 15-year-old is going to be walking on this road at midnight. Oh my gosh, no. Not even in 77, okay? But it's a small town, right? So he's apparently walking home from his girlfriend's house, 15 years old, at midnight. He thinks he sees a shadowy figure at first, and this is the kid who thinks that it's actually a friend of his.
Yeah, because he got a funny shaped head or something, didn't he?
Right? Yeah.
And he was a smaller kid with a funny shaped head. Yeah, and he's like, that's gotta be.
That's gotta be that big-headed asshole.
But that's 100% true. He claimed that his head was bigger than normal, and he thought it was MJ. So he calls out, "Hey, MJ, is that you?" Of course, he gets no response. He keeps walking until he's pretty close to it. He figures between about 15 feet or so. He calls out again, and nothing happens. But then he starts seeing this creature, and it's got a really big head. Again, we see the spindly fingers. This time, it's got its fingers around a tree trunk. He could see that the eyes were glowing. He did not mention any specific color, though, but that it was just a glow to it. He did not make a drawing of it. Then we've got Abby. Oh my gosh, I should have looked up how to say her last name.
Brabham.
Yeah, I was going to go with Brabham. I was like, I think that's how we say it. Oh boy. She again was another 15-year-old.
Yeah, there's a lot of teenagers wandering around this town.
Yeah, man.
This was the 70s of America, okay?
Oh, I have to go back to the first one again real quickly to Bartlett, because there was also the mention that, oh, well, these were kids driving around at night. It was the late 70s. I guess they were just high on marijuana, and that's why they saw all this stuff.
That damn hooch.
Oh boy. I have yet to have that good of marijuana that I would start seeing stuff like that.
Yeah, let me tell you now. I'm
not happen.
I'm a medical card carrier here, so I'm legal, and so I buy medical grade stuff, and nope, haven't seen nothing like this yet.
Plus, if anything, marijuana is probably used more now than it was in the 70s. So surely more people would be seeing strange things, would they not? If that explanation works, which obviously marijuana doesn't really cause hallucinations in the vast majority of users.
It's super rare.
It's used more, and it's chemically stronger now. Like
yes, yeah, it's probably not actually knocked off potpourri that they bought some dodgy kid at the local arcade in 1977. All getting high on thyme.
Right?
Oof.
Yeah, a little bit of oregano, a little bit of thyme, a little rosemary in there. And then you're like, shoot, supposed to be making chicken, not smoking it.
Yeah, I'm wondering why they've got munchies for pasta.
Right? Yeah. Oh goodness, yeah. So I just also long time ago. This is not a recommendation for doing drugs of any kind in particular. I'm just saying. I have had hallucinogenics, things that are supposed to actually make you see stuff, and I still didn't see anything. So I'm disappointed that, apparently I should have been seeing Dover demons and I haven't. I want my money back. From 30 years ago. It's
like the explanation that people are drunk if they see UFOs, which, I've run bars and nightclubs. None of my regulars ever said, "Oh, I got absolutely hammered last night. I was seeing UFOs everywhere."
People always go straight to the alcohol when it comes to Bigfoot stories too. Well, how much booze were they drinking in that trailer in the woods?
A lot, but that doesn't mean something wasn't throwing rocks at them.
Alcohol doesn't make you hallucinate like that, man.
Yeah.
You're just gonna pass out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's one of the excuses a very famous skeptic puts forward about the Hopkinsville incident, that everybody was that drunk, including the children,
Yes.
that they were hallucinating these alleged bulletproof owls that were attacking them for several hours.
I can't attest to how much there is to do in Hopkinsville because I've never been there, but I can't imagine that they just allow all the children to get that fucked up too.
It's not true, because the woman who was the head of the family was completely teetotal and refused to have alcohol in the house. So none of them had a drink.
Yep.
Well, there you go.
But my God, I lost it when you said
Sorry.
bulletproof owls. Though,
Because they shot at him. You know they shot at him.
they must have been owls. Everything is an owl. Oh my gosh. Okay, so speaking of owls, so Abby Brabham, she was again 15 years old, and she's in the car with her boyfriend. They're on Springdale Avenue the next night. And she sees a creature that she thinks it looks a lot like a monkey to her, but without hair, and it has a tannish beige color to it. And she does not see a nose, ears, or a tail, though, which I think is actually pretty important as well. And again, at the end here, when we talk about some of the quote debunking, yeah, you know what an actual monkey looks like, and like for her to be like, yeah, it was monkey-like, but again, I'm imagining those long, spindly looking legs, maybe, and she's not seeing the ears, nose, or tail, which I think is sort of important. She's the one where the eyes for her are glowing green. Seems to have a color change, maybe, but the investigation, of course, it's Lauren Coleman that does it. I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely one of those people that I totally believe that they all saw something. You know, like what it is, I don't know, but I can tell you the explanations that were given from the Muggles, if you will, for what it was, doesn't make any sense either.
No, that doesn't matter.
Wait, albino moose baby that just happened to be in somebody's private collection in the town of Dover, where no one had a private collection of albino moose babies, just happened to get loose.
You don't know how many weird eccentric rednecks they have out there. They could have albino moose.
At least they didn't blame it on a circus train crash.
Thank you. Yes.
The rare case that wasn't blamed.
Yeah.
I was going to say, the one time that someone literally is like, it might have been a hairless monkey, but there's no train crash full of monkeys. So there you go. For the first one, I absolutely love this one, that it's a horse foal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We mixed that up. Long fingers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's my take on horse foal. So there are about 10 today. There's like 10 large horse farms within the range of where the sightings took place. Apparently Dover, a small community at the time, was about 5,000 folks-ish. The joke was that there was actually more horses than people. Okay, that's fair. Except that nobody was missing a foal.
Yeah, and like horses aren't cheap.
It's a whole ass horse, thank you. It's a whole ass horse that's missing, guys. Like, there's no one that's going to let their baby horse out and be like, oh shit, we lost the baby horse. Please call the cops and let them know that it's missing. That's a big deal. Also, in the United States, a horse is pretty much like, I don't know, the third or second animal that we learn about as a child.
Yeah.
We got a whole game for that called Speak and Spell.
Yeah. So, like, when you talk about it being a baby horse, when you look at the head, I can see it. But when you get down to the hands,
yeah,
I don't know. Like, they specifically talk about the long fingers that wrap around things. Like,
right.
Well, Cord, what you don't know is baby horses, all horses are actually born with hands, and it's us that chop the hands off and put on hooves.
Oh,
And
thanks.
they probably just
Thanks
hadn't
for,
gotten that process.
Thank you so much for that nightmare tonight, JC. That's what I needed.
You're welcome.
Yeah, they're not putting horseshoes on them; they're putting hooves on them.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's what the nails are for.
Well, the horseshoes, they actually keep the fingers from growing back.
Yeah, yeah.
They nail the shoes onto the fingertips. It's terrible.
I do not know that.
Yeah, that's common horse knowledge.
Well, I guess I got to go back to being 3 now. Thanks.
Also, I would say like a baby horse is a drastically different size than a cat. So I don't know how they would like.
It was a Maine Coon. It was a real big cat.
I do love me a Maine Coon.
Okay, so the next one we touched on, which is the baby moose.
Yes, the even larger 4-legged hooved animal.
Okay, so this one is, if you're looking at just the face, baby moose, the moose in general, they do have like an elongated face, right? And they got kind of big eyes.
Mm.
And I thought about, okay, well, what does a baby moose look like if it has mange, for example? Would the skin color be that peach color? No, it is not. Also, you can clearly see ears on it, even with the mange, if you're going to go down that particular route. And also, they don't often appear in Massachusetts. So it's kind of, you'd actually see a horse before you'd see a baby moose or a moose at all in Massachusetts.
Well, that's why it was somebody owned a moose farm. I don't know if that's a thing, but that's why I said it's a private collection.
Right.
Because they don't range in that area.
And I mean, moose, even as baby moose, have that big hunch behind their shoulders. Like, you'd think that would probably stand out if somebody's looking at the thing.
And again, they don't have long fingers.
And that too, yeah.
Throw that out there, So the other animals that were mentioned were a fox, a bobcat, or a dog. And again, if you sticking with the mange idea too, you can look at any of these animals online, and no matter what happens, they don't have the skin color that we're seeing. You can still see their tails. You can still see their ears
and their nose.
And a nose. Yes. So, and the folks who saw them were saying that the animal was bigger than those, right? But smaller than a moose or a horse. So it was like that in between thing.
Also, like mange doesn't, for the most part, mange doesn't completely make an animal hairless. They're still going to have patches.
Sometimes I've seen the ones with where bears get it, and they actually are totally completely hairless.
Yes.
And eye shine, though, this is kind of interesting because I hadn't looked this up before until this now. So the animal that has the orange glow to it, though, are either bear or owls.
Hey!
Well, here we go.
It's always goddamn owls.
I was like, son of a bitch.
And owls famously have fingers.
Oh boy.
More so than a moose.
Fair.
A deer does have light green, white, or yellow eye shine. Thought that was kind of interesting. Raccoons have the bright yellow, and a coyote, wolf, or dog is going to have like that white, just a white glow, or possibly, one it doesn't really look like anything. Just looks like kind of like a glow to it. So that's why I picked a lot of those. And the bobcat has a yellowish white eye shine to it. So I'm just like, well, even if you were just doing the eye color alone, none of those animals fit the description of what anybody saw as far as I'm concerned. I mean, deer don't have fingers either. I mean, granted, raccoons do, but not like that. And I got nothing. Although, fun fact, moths also have orange-red glowing eyes.
That's creepy.
It's cool. And wolf spiders have a glittery white if you shine the light on them.
What if this is like a baby Mothman?
I knew. See, I knew you were gonna go there. If I told you that, I was like, there we go.
Yeah,
Perfect.
baby Mothman, but before he went into the cocoon, so he doesn't have his wings yet.
Oh my god.
So, to be honest, that's more plausible than a pony.
Right?
Strangely enough, I'm not going to disagree.
Yeah. Well, when you get into cryptids, one of the things you don't realise you're going to end up learning about is eye shine in different animals. I didn't think 10 years ago I'd know the difference.
Legit,
Right?
Legitimately,
I was like,
yeah.
huh. Now I did know that alligators glow red because, yeah.
Spooky.
I've watched a lot of Crocodile Hunter.
And I just lived in North Carolina for 20 years.
Oh,
Eh, close enough.
I did my thing.
Yes. I know kangaroos have the same eye shine as humans.
Get out. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Oh.
Yeah, which can be quite surprising in the outback when you think it's Steve.
Oh.
It's not. It's a 7-foot roo coming to kick your ass.
Yes, that is
Quite-
actually pretty dangerous.
Quite literally.
Yeah. As the videos of Roger, the famous one, will often demonstrate his terrifying strength.
Yeah.
If you've never seen that, just Google Roger the kangaroo and watch him crush a tin bucket.
Yeah, that's a frightening video.
Yep. So that is it as far as the like mundane explanations that don't make any sense as far as I'm concerned for this one.
Is it time for weird shit now?
It's time for the weird
Time
shit.
for weird shit.
The one thing that's always struck me about this is Bartlett was convinced that it was an earthly animal. He categorically said he didn't think it was an alien. He said, I know it's of this earth, but I don't know what it is, which I've always found a very definite statement from somebody who's seen something so peculiar.
Did he ever say why you thought that?
I think it was the way it moved. But I don't know. Does he know how aliens move? I mean, it's just one of those things.
That's why I was thinking, like, is he an alien expert?
He's like, I've seen an alien before.
I grew, up in
yeah.
I grew up in Kecksburg.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's nearly killed by the acorn from space.
Oh my god. Yeah, I just want to say, since we said that, I saw a freaking meteor explode in the atmosphere last night. That shit was cool as hell.
Nice.
And
Anyway,
I never get to see anything explode in the atmosphere. I'm
it's
very
the
upset.
second time I've seen one now. There's freaking just a huge freaking green explosion in the sky. Just like, whoa!
Yeah, we had the Perseids the other week. You could see them really well about 6-7 weeks ago. That was pretty good watching those come in, because I think I saw about 20 in about an hour, which was fab.
Ooh.
All right, so the weird shit is you could say Pukwudgie. it's the area, and then the Managishi is the Cree folklore equivalent. It's a trickster race.
So I want to read the description of that creature, because they're described as being child-sized. That fits. They have a large head. Sorry,
I was like,
but
what?
they're also
Just one large hair.
they're described as being very hairy. Where this was, so is this the Managishi but with mange? Like,
Well,
Shut up, JC.
It's a
well,
mangy
no, but if you do look at the Native American legend, like it is described as a hairy creature, so I don't think that's necessarily what it is. Same thing with Pukwudgie. They're not known to be like furless or hairless.
But you could play devil's advocate and say that if we are to believe that some of these creatures are biological in their origins, then surely some of them may suffer from alopecia of some description.
True, yeah.
The Cree say that they have like a long, narrow face. And they don't have a nose.
Oh yeah, it fits like everything else
know?
except the hairy part. That's what, like, their name comes from hairy.
But, well, there's some conjecture about that. But yes, like that's one Ojibwa word for hairy is memia. But then again, it's also possibly the word for butterfly in Ojibwa. Yeah, so maybe they are just miniature Mothmen.
Pupae.
I'm in.
We just
We're
go right back.
significantly more interested now.
Yeah, let's go find this thing now. I'll have my own baby Mothman.
Could be a shaved albatwitch or whatever they're called. That you guys-
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, could be an Albatwitch. We did several episodes about Albatwitch. Now
Mm,
Yeah, they're one of PA's most famous cryptids.
they are. They
what
are
if it's an
indeed.
Albatwitch with mange?
Those little apple boys. How many times can we say mange in this episode?
A lot. I ain't done yet. Did it
We should
throw
say-
an apple at you?
Yeah, I was going to say you should have tried to tempt it with some apples.
I got nothing. I feel like I believe them. I absolutely 100% think that they saw some weird shit, and we don't know what it is.
The thing about their witness statements is, if you ignore the fact that they're describing a creature that is baffling, none of them describe it doing anything ridiculous or unbelievable. They all describe it moving or running off or getting out there. They don't say it flew off into the sky straight up, or it screamed at them, or it tried to attack them, or it had enormous talons. There's no exaggeration or anything that would make you think, well, that's just silly. If you take away the fact that they're describing a creature that nobody knows what they've seen, they're very mundane.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
I would think if it's a bunch of teenagers making up some crap for funsies, it would be an alien story, you know. A ship came down and there was a beam of light or something, not like I saw it off on the side of the road and it ran away. Like
Yeah, it ran off and hugged a tree and then disappeared. It's the little things that often stick out with stories like that. I think when people don't go too far, then you think, well, it's a very simple story other than the fact that it's a very odd creature.
Yeah. It's one of the more interesting things about this cryptid is it's just walking, and it walks in like a straight line too, which is interesting. All the sightings kind of happen in a straight line.
They're like a mile and a half from each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
was that straight line pointing anywhere specific? Like where was it at?
I think it was all by a body of water or like
Oh yes.
something around there, because there's some myths. I think that's why another reason why people think it's like a Native American creature is 'cause it was always near the water, and I think one of them is related to water. Was it the Mamigishi?
Yeah, the Managishi is
Yeah.
a trickster that usually does plays tricks on people on water. Like there's stories about people getting their canoes tipped over, stuff like that. Not necessarily, like they're trying to drown you, but
They're just having a good old time. Haha.
So my question that I've been thinking of from the beginning, right? These are all teenagers who are obviously close to each other. Do these kids all know each other? Like
Dover's a small town. I would say that they probably all knew each other from school, but just because you know of each other in school doesn't mean you're,
right.
going
I'm
to
not
come
gonna
up with a hoax that has lasted 50 years.
I'm not gonna come up with an alien story with the kid that's sitting next to me in social studies. I was just
No, that's
'cause I-
math class.
I figured yeah, actually, yeah. I figured, the first question that's gonna come up is, this is a bunch of teenagers in a small town, like, are they just doing this for shits and giggles?
I believe that's what the police came out and said. That was
Yeah.
a school vacation hoax. Yeah.
See, there you go. But
Yeah, I think they knew of each other, but I don't think any of them would consider them to be friends.
right. Baxter and Bartlett knew each other from school, but they were not close friends, and they had not spoken to each other at all about their sightings. But yet they both, one drew it and the other one explained it, and it looked exactly like what Baxter had drawn. Drone, yeah. Oh boy,
Drew.
Drew.
There you go.
Yeah, because Bartlett was 17, Baxter's 15,
and
then
Abby's 15 as well.
15.
So I,
Yeah.
and I don't think she knew either one of them. It doesn't. I didn't
Yeah, I
see
don't know.
anything.
But like, so what's the, I was in high school. I didn't have friends that were below me, like in grade or age.
Actually, I
Not
take
many
that back.
anyway.
I did, but it was a year.
Yeah, it was.
When you're 2
yeah.
years down, it's like I don't know. You
I don't know
never
you.
have a chance to talk to each other half the time.
Yeah, because you're in completely different classes. Yeah.
And
So-
I was in a much smaller school. Like Palmerton is not a big school at all.
No.
A couple hundred kids max, like 200, 300. So,
Coleman actually did say that they did not know each other well. None of them did. So
Yeah,
just
that's what I figured.
that checks out. I know for any skeptic that would be listening to this story, that's probably going to be the first thing they thought. Well, it's a bunch of teenagers.
Yeah.
Probably talked about it in school and made this a weekend,
But Coleman had actually pointed out and said that, yes, this happened on, quote, a vacation week, but they actually didn't talk to each other. Whereas if they were in school, they may have had the opportunity to tell their stories to each other or at least have it go around. See, so it's the opposite. They're away from each other. They're not at school this whole entire week.
Yeah, it's not like this is when you could just post it on TikTok or so.
Right.
Yeah. Plus, Baxter's sighting was 2 hours after Bartlett's.
Right.
That's very close.
Yeah, I don't know. And you know what, Paul? That's probably why I feel like the one thing that makes it genuine to me that they're not lying about anything is there isn't anything like super weird about it. It's like they're not trying to make this, some kind of news media, whatever. It's just like, hey, man, I saw this weird ass thing. It was just sitting there doing whatever.
Yeah, because if it is a tall tale, often people who tell tall tales can't stop it growing. It just gets sillier and sillier and sillier. And this has remained pretty as it was 45 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the 45th anniversary this year. Yeah.
And plus, as well, it's a small town, as you guys have mentioned. You're not going to stick your neck out and say, "Oh, I've seen this really weird thing." These are the kind of places where, "Oh, look, here's Weird Bill. Here's that guy that saw that weird creature the other week." You'd be putting a target on your back.
They tend to keep their cards closer to their chest when it comes to the small town people. They don't want to talk about a lot of stuff like that too because of that.
Absolutely.
All right, I want to hear some stories about Bradford. Yeah.
Story time.
Okay. So, everybody knows who Bram Stoker is.
Heck
yes.
So, Bram Stoker was a manager, worked in the theatre, and he looked after the most celebrated actor of the late Victorian period, which was a gentleman called Sir Henry Irving, who to say was difficult would be an understatement. And there's a lot of Irving in Count Dracula. Stoker's certainly used him as part of the template of his creation, which is quite funny. As I'm discussing this, I've just looked up and realised that Dracula is staring at me from the bookshelf, which is peculiar.
Nice.
As Stoker continued to work for Irving, he wrote Dracula, but they still continued having a professional relationship. So Irving would tour the UK doing performances and acting all around. And his final run was at the Midland Hotel, where they were performing. And he gave his last performance, and he finished his speech at the end of the play, had a stroke, and was carried off into the foyer of the Midland Hotel, where he passed away after an hour. And so, Irving's ghost now resides at the Midland Hotel in Bradford to this very day, scaring the patrons, as it's now a fully functioning hotel which has embraced its spookiness ever since. So a lot of people think that the Midland's the most haunted location in Bradford. Now, you've got the usual people being disturbed, knocking on doors, people claiming they see something walking up and down the stairs or around the foyer. Lots of weird things disturb the guests. So it's a very popular location. Like I say, it's one of those places that's embraced its haunted history and enjoys people coming to check it out.
I'm in.
One of Bradford's other notorious haunted locations is the wonderfully named Boiling Hall, or Boiling Hall, as some people like to call it, which is a property that someone has lived there for nearly 1,000 years now. There's always been a large property there. I think the hall itself was built in the 17th century, and this is a beautiful manor house which has had a history of paranormal incidents that cover everything from poltergeists to ghosts to strange noises, cryings, apports, people being woken in the night, people hearing footsteps. And it's also wonderfully got a smelly ghost that everybody says when they see it gives off a very pungent odour that makes them feel nauseous.
You don't hear a lot about stinky ghosts.
No, not at all. And also people have claimed to have caught photos of it.
Interesting.
I say the only time that I had an experience where there was any kind of smell with a ghost at all was at my grandparents' house. It wasn't really the house that was haunted. It was more likely the property. They started having, well after the house was built, they started having some issues. You could hear or feel someone walking behind you, and you'd often smell pipe smoke. Like a, sweet smelling, not your normal like cigarette.
Yeah.
And so they did some research and found out that the property, they bought it from a widow. They kind of asked about, well, can you tell us anything about the property? Is this what was going on? And she claimed that it was supposed to be where her husband and her were going to build their quote dream house, but he was a fisherman off of New Jersey, and then he drowned. My grandmother would always tell us that she felt like he was tied to the property somehow because this was where he wanted to be in his retirement that he never got to take. And so he just kind of would hang out at the house. And believe it or not, I smelled that as a child, that distinctive sweet odor of tobacco, not a cigarette, something that's definitely in a pipe. And you knew when he was around. I'll just say he, because maybe it was wrong. Now that you get into paranormal investigation stuff, you're like, well, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that that's that guy, but he was always just hanging out. It was never, that spirit was never violent.
I think that's something we've lost in the modern paranormal, that unfortunately everything is either extremely violent or it's a demon, which I don't understand. Having read about ghosts for the best part of almost 50 years, it seems to be a modern thing. So whether even the paranormal's pissed off at the way the world's going these days, I'm not really sure. But they never used to be this grumpy.
And I think it's also like if you see it inside, it's a demon and or poltergeist. If you see it outside, it's the Wendigo or Skinwalker. Like it's just that's how it is.
We figured it out. We pinpointed it. Yeah.
Oh, that's it. We can all go home now. Well done.
Yeah. Well, we're done with the podcast. This is our last episode.
But I know when you emailed me, you mentioned a particular subject that I don't like to talk about unless I'm just laughing about it. So I said I'd rather talk about a couple of strange hauntings here in the UK, which might be something that you and your listeners will enjoy, which is these ghostly apes.
Oh, yes. I want to know about the ghostly apes.
So we've got two very different types of hauntings here in the UK. One's in Wales and one's in Devon, I think it is, which both are allegedly haunted by the ghosts of, one is a Barbary ape and the other is a chimpanzee.
That's a frightening ghost. A chimpanzee ghost? Jeez.
Well, I'll get to the chimpanzee second because that's probably the oddest one. So the one in Wales is a documented fact that it was owned by a gentleman who lived at Carew Castle, Sir Rowland Rees, and Sir Rowland Rees was known as not being a very nice chap. And he had a pet Barbary ape that he had bought off some merchants and kept it on a chain to essentially harass people who came to his house.
Wow.
Why else would you get a monkey?
Precisely. And it turned out that he ended up getting into a very heated argument with a local merchant called Horowitz, whose daughter had been seduced by Sir Rowland's son. And so Sir Rowland couldn't be bothered with the conversation and set the ape on him. And he was viciously attacked. And as the merchant managed to escape, he cursed Sir Rowland and said that I hope the ape kills you. And by morning, the servants arrived to discover that Sir Rowland had indeed had his throat ripped out by his pet Barbary ape, who had absconded into the Welsh hills surrounding the castle. And now the ape is still allegedly sighted occasionally, usually on the staircase, or I think the northwestern tower. Usually, as befits a ghost story, on a dark and stormy night. But more often than not, people don't see the ghost, but they hear its horrific shrieking that causes people to awake in the middle of the night as the ape runs around the castle, letting everybody know it's still there.
We're going to have to add the shrieking apes to the investigation techniques. We started doing little side things of like, this is what a donkey actually sounds like. It does sound like it's opening the 7th layer of hell.
But it's a donkey.
But it's just a donkey. We promise.
Yep.
I think I'd probably lose my shit if I heard a macaque, which is basically what a Barbary ape is, in case anybody was trying to picture it.
I mean,
Yep.
That
I
thing
Googled
is...
it. They call it a Barbary macaque.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, it's a... So if you're trying to picture what it looks like in your head, yeah, they're really loud and obnoxious. No, thank you.
they look pretty cute as far as monkeys go, but I just saw a picture of one with their mouth open, and they got some teeth, bud. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Yes, you should never underestimate how the majority of the animal kingdom can kill you.
Yeah. We're top of the food chain because we use tools, because we don't have tools like built into us like other animals do. Why don't tigers need knives? They have claws and really sharp teeth. That's why. Like,
Okay, but chimpanzees use tools, JC, so they not only could rip your
only
face off,
recently.
you know. I'm not getting into this right now.
I don't want to get into that either. Have you guys looked up what William Bartlett has been up to since the sighting? He's a painter. Yeah, he's a really good painter. I kept looking up Dover Demon shit, and I found like an interview he did in 2006. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, I do art."
So are you saying that you weren't listening to the incredibly nasty story about ghost apes, man? Or are you multitasking?
We both know that I can barely do one thing at a time.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Well, you're in luck because the next monkey story is a bit more up your street.
Nice. Okay, and I will listen to this one. I won't continue looking up Dover Demon stuff.
God, he's like the worst.
I am absolute garbage.
So the other famous ghost of a chimp that we have here is at Althampton Hall, which is the traditional seat of the Martin family, who are one of those strange things that we have here, that their coat of arms has a monkey on it, which is a bit odd.
Ooh.
And also their motto is, if the Martin monkey looks at you, the Martin monkey sees you, which is quite creepy anyway.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
My God.
So this one, they had a pet chimp that lived in their house, and sadly one of the daughters was heartbroken and decided to wander off into the castle grounds, into the hall grounds rather, and found an abandoned room away from everybody, and hadn't noticed that the chimp, allegedly, I don't know how they know this, but apparently the chimp had allegedly got a feeling that she was feeling very sad, so it started following her around. I don't know how anybody knows this bit, as the ending of this story will explain. So she went off to this room and decided to take her own life, and didn't realise that the chimp had followed her into the room where she'd locked the door. She took her own life, and they weren't discovered for nearly a week, by which time she had died and the chimp had died. From that point on, people began to see the chimp. Now, people see this chimp, and he seems rather excitable, shall we say, and likes to demonstrate how excitable he is by showing people his genitals, and he likes to rub them vigorously as people watch him.
Well, we all have our things, you know.
So yes, a lot of people have claimed to have seen a chimp acting rather rudely in front of them, who just vanishes into thin air.
I like how you told me this was being more up my alley, and a chimp pleasing himself. You know me so well, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm just saying I've not come to this interview cold, JC.
Good.
Oh man, he did his research.
Love it.
Wow.
So yeah, that's one of the weirder ghosts we've got in this country, anyway. In my opinion, anyway.
I would agree with your opinion on that.
Yeah, because I've got a real soft spot for animal ghosts because I just find them quite peculiar because there's just something very sweet about most of them because a lot of them are pets or things, and I often wonder how many people see animal ghosts, and it's only when it's a creature that appears somewhere it shouldn't that people might think, well, that's a bit odd.
I never even thought about that, and I hate it. How many cats have I seen? How many dogs have I seen roaming the streets that were ghosts?
Yeah, I used to have a friend of mine who lived in a block of flats, and he occasionally would see a cat in his flat, and nobody knew who the cat was. Nobody ever saw it leave. Nobody ever saw it arrive. It was just there, and then it would just disappear, and you just go, oh, well, that's a cat. And then he just started asking people, and nobody knew where this cat was coming from, but it was appearing in 3 or 4 flats, and they were on the 3rd floor.
Cats are crazy, though.
Well, yeah,
I can kind of see a cat doing that.
Well, I can as well.
Yeah, this is the apartment I've decided to lay in today. Deal with it.
Yes, yeah. We've got a cat that comes around every morning at 9 a.m. for some biscuits.
Yeah, they know how to live life.
It sits on my back wall staring at us, and we don't know what it's called, but it's big and it's fluffy, so I call it Fluffy.
That's a good name for him.
It looks like a furry triangle.
Are you sure it's not a Wendigo though?
Definitely not here, not in Sheffield. We've got some strange things in Sheffield, but I don't think even Wendigos have made it here yet.
Soon. It was probably a skinwalker out on vacation to England.
Yeah.
Skinwalker with mange is that?
Yeah. There's enough people claiming to see strange things here that I don't wish to give any more airtime to.
That's fair.
Oh, but I'm gonna do it, Paul.
There we go.
No comment.
So I did promise you because I said if you shared in case you hadn't heard it yet, which is the candle shop in the Poconos, and we did a whole episode on kind of ghost animals of Pennsylvania, which sort of led us down a path that was a lot more dogs for some reason.
Yeah.
But this one was really interesting because they had done the research and found out that there was a doctor who lived on the property, William Redwood Fisher, and he was a scientist. He was trying to find a cure for, I want to say it's yellow fever. Is that what I remember?
Yellow fever sounds right.
Yeah, it's been, that was last year. So I'm like, I feel like it was yellow fever.
Almost positive it was yellow fever.
And it was because his own, one of his family members had died of it. So he was trying to, discover the cure for it. He went to Columbia College. And so a lot of this information was from the website, right from the college. So I was like, oh, cool. So we could corroborate like all the stories and everything else. And that he had monkeys that he was testing.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, he lost some of them. They died. So it went from the original story that we found was that these monkeys were out in, like the ghost monkeys, mind you, were out in the Poconos. So you could walk around the Poconos and see, quote, ghost monkeys. But then kind of narrowed it down to it's really this basement in this candle shop, which the family that bought it, they turned it into this beautiful candle shop in town. But they went down the basement, they kept hearing scratching noises and cage rattling and screeching like a monkey. And this turns out to be on in newspaper, and I believe there was a TV show, like one of our local TV stations had run it for Halloween the first time that it was kind of aired. She did go down in the basement and find a secret passage.
Ooh. That
it was kind of just boarded up, and she opens the door and it led to a laboratory.
Wow. And
there were still cages there. There was still some equipment, no notes or anything like that. And that's what led them to do the investigation on the house and find out who owned it before, and then corroborate all of that evidence that yes, absolutely, he was a government funded scientist. He chose to work out of his home, and yes, it was yellow fever and smallpox. He was working on both, and that he had done these experiments and that possibly what they were hearing was ghost monkeys in the basement. So,
so what era was this then? Was this sort of the beginning of the 20th century?
yeah, it was 1890. Actually, I think it was somewhere between 1870s to 1891.
Yeah. There was a lot of scientists running about at that period who were doing strange things with monkeys, because you got that Russian guy, haven't you? Ilya Ivanov, who was trying to create a monkey-human hybrid. Have you heard about him? That guy.
Oh yeah.
I am interested for sure.
Didn't it?
Yeah.
Wait,
Of course,
was
like,
that?
what?
I thought that was for the Soviets.
Yeah.
Or was that
Yeah.
just yeah, okay.
Yeah, he was trying to inseminate female chimps with human sperm.
Oh.
Yeah, because they wanted an army of these hybrids
Wow.
to
Yeah.
help the Soviets win wars against
Anyone.
Everyone.
Ooh. Yeah, that's fair.
Yes, the orangutan nation. That's what they wanted to do.
Wow.
Wanted to take
I'll
the
have to look.
Pacific. Yeah.
What was the name? I'll have to look into that.
Ilya Ivanov. But they did it a few times. There was a few of them. I know they did it in the 50s. Some really weird animal experiments, grafting like dog heads onto other dogs, so dogs had two heads and things. And then there is footage and documents to support this. It's not just one of those things you read about and there's no evidence. It's it was a big thing at the end of that era, the sort of the end of the 19th century, early 20th. You know, people trying to inject monkey genes into old rich people to give them the elixir of eternal youth and things like that. Obviously, there's a Sherlock Holmes story about that very subject.
Yes.
That's so weird.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my gosh,
Ford's like, I'm going down a rabbit hole right now.
Here we go.
well, they're also, finding mummies and grinding them up and then eating them for eternal life as well. So, yum. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like it's very healthy.
Just in case anybody wants to know further, we did I did a whole thing on the King Tutankhamun quote curse. Yeah.
Well, ironically, it's the anniversary of the tomb's discovery today, isn't it? Tutankhamun's tomb was discovered today.
Yes.
One of the probably one of the most famous alleged curses in the supernatural history, I would imagine.
For sure.
Yeah. Though Kiki doesn't think it's a curse. Sometimes people just die.
Well, I think I don't particularly think there's anything to all that. I just think
Thank you.
Because it's one of those where it happens over like 30 years, and that seems to be people getting old.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Curse with old age.
You wait long enough, you're bound to find some misfortune.
Well, what is that movie? The Men Who Stare at Goats?
Yes.
Where the dude walks up to another dude and he like touches him on the nose, and then everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, he just killed you!" And he's like, "No, he didn't. I'm still alive." "No, you're going to die one day." And then like it breaks the dude, and of course we're humans, so of course we're going to die. Like,
but as we found out, though, boys, it was not the curse of King Tut. It was actually Aleister Crowley the whole time.
always
Alistair.
as soon as you get into magic stuff. So ghosts and poltergeists and demons indoors, skinwalkers and wendigos are outside, and then anything magic is Crowley.
Yeah,
These are the 5 things of the paranormal.
Man, we're on a tangent today, aren't we? Huh?
Yeah.
A little bit.
If it doesn't have hair, it has mange.
Well, and Crowley was bald, so make of that what you will.
Ooh,
A human with mange.
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. Strangely enough, on Monday I nipped to the famous witchcraft bookshop in London called the Atlantis, which is where Crowley used to buy his books from.
Oh,
Nice.
Oh, synchronicity. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Little
also the
one.
birthplace of the modern pagan movement here in the UK. Their coven was based there. Lovely,
Yes.
really nice. A nice chat with the owner.
That's on my list to visit.
Fabulous, beautiful, but lovely people. Really, I could have spent hundreds of pounds in there, but spent enough and left. So it was.
wait, pounds of what?
Well, pounds, the English currency.
I know.
Don't-
I'm just being a butt.
I know you were. I just ignored it.
Oh,
Right?
okay, good.
That's what we do too. See, Paul knows.
He's listened to other episodes.
The currency you should have.
Right.
Mind you, at the minute, it's probably better to have $1 in your pocket than £1, but never mind. Thanks, Liz. Back to Liz Truss again.
We brought it back around.
Ah, geez. Full circle.
Yes.
Congratulations, gentlemen. We did it.
But I mean, one of the other things about your relative's old stomping ground as well, Kiki, is obviously the black shuck giant dogs.
Yes.
Legends that they have around here. Because obviously a lot of people in the US might think that they're just called black shucks or the black dog, but in Yorkshire there are actually 3 different names for them depending on which part of Yorkshire you live in.
I heard that, actually.
Jai Trash, Padfoot, or Bargeist.
I like Bargeist.
So
It's my favorite name of the 3 for sure. I like Padfoot
Yeah.
too, but I think that's because of Harry Potter.
yeah, they're all. There's quite a few that have been sort of absorbed into popular culture, and that's where Rowling got that from. Because that's our particular one. Padfoot's more sort of North Yorkshire. Round Bradford is Bargeist, and they're not really sure where it comes from. There's 3 sort of origin stories for it, none of which make much sense because they all kind of talk about them being based in the Germanic language, which Bradford doesn't really have a history of a large German immigrant population. So we're not really sure why people say that. But yeah, there's loads. I mean, some are called skrickers as well, and trash. So there's loads.
The first time I ever heard of Black Shuck at all was from the very first ghost story book that I ever read. I actually just talked about this a couple episodes ago for spooky season, which is the Ghosts in the Valley book. And that's around ghost stories from New Hope, Pennsylvania, and the surrounding area. And if I remember the story correctly, the girl is walking home and she keeps seeing a big black dog walking with her. Like it'll just come out of nowhere and then like follow her. Her first instinct was that she was a little afraid of it. And then one day she's trying to cross a road and isn't really paying attention. And the dog bolts out in front of her and basically stops her from getting hit by a car. And she goes home and she tells her parents this. And it turns out her grandfather was from England. And he's like, oh, that's actually the Black Shuck. But maybe it followed us over here kind of attitude towards it, right? Which we get that a lot here with like, and I had no idea that was an actual thing. I always thought it was just a legend from here. And then I was like, oh no, I'll be darned. That's really cool. Of course, I was like 10 when I'm reading that, but
there are 2 distinct type of Shuck stories. There are either like the guardian protective ones, like that one, or there's the ones where people are chased. But they're never caught, they're just chased.
Having fun with them. Just, gonna get you.
Yeah. But you get that a lot in alleged dogman encounters, don't you? I've yet to hear of a witness that says it caught them. A lot of people seem to think that they're being toyed with, don't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had this place called Hawk Mountain, where it's like a difference between like saying again, Wendigo. Oh, here we go. But the description of it definitely fits more of a dog man. And I think it was 2 different encounters that we talked about on that particular mountain path. And both instances are one of, that you feel like they're messing with you, not going to harm you in any way. Except that the one guy did have a dog with him at the time. Like, I think it was his German Shepherd, if I remember correctly.
I think so.
And yeah, he felt a little threatened, but he felt like it could also be the dog himself, like his dog being protective. So if the haunch is up and it sees it, which I always like those stories because you've got your pet there who is clearly attempting to protect you from something that it may see before you.
Yep.
Then you see said thing, and then now we're in it, So.
Pennsylvania is one of those strange states as well, because you've got dogman stories, but you've also, you've got a werewolf cemetery allegedly as well in your state.
Oh yeah. We're gonna. I threatened to send JC there and do the the thing.
Wait, is that
Don't
where
you
you're
remember?
supposed to walk around
Yes.
3 times?
Yes.
And yeah, I'll do it. I don't care.
I'm in. I'll watch him do it.
Yeah.
That's what you said last time too. You're like, I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna watch him.
Yeah, I'm gonna be the one going, come on, just do it. He's like, I don't wanna do it.
No, I'll do it. I will have so many flashlights that like they'll be able to see me from the International Space Station, but I'll do it.
You're gonna bring all the flashlights and I'm gonna cut all the power to them.
The batteries.
Make sure you film it and send it to Chad Lewis because he loves that kind of thing. If you've got a cursed area.
Ironic, because Chad's going to be joining us in 2 weeks.
Fabulous! Yeah, he's got
I'm so excited.
New winter themed collection coming out, hasn't he?
Yes, and that's what we're going to talk about. And I already pre-ordered it. So
yeah.
Well,
Brilliant.
we'll talk a little bit about that coming out. And then I was actually, again, I get inspired by Paul a lot, guys, seriously, because I read his book on the lumberjack stories.
Yeah. The hide
fun.
behind from your neck of the woods as well. I love that one. That's one of my favorites, the hide behind.
Creepy AF. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I hate that's actually like terrifying story. I don't like the hide behind.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting collection, this new one of Chad's, because Morgan Knudson's done all the illustrations for it as well.
Oh, that's awesome! I actually didn't catch that.
Yeah, she did a couple in the Lumberjack book.
I love those.
So
that book is awesome.
Another sickeningly talented, multi-talented person in the paranormal. No,
right?
I'm joking. Morgan's amazing. She's fab.
Yes, and you've had her on your show, so I highly suggest. I highly suggest watching your show. Yeah, sure, listening to your show anyway. But yeah, Morgan's been on there. Chad's been on too, and I love every time he's been on. Has been hysterically funny and very informative. So
yeah, Chad's a great guy.
So getting back real quick to the Hans Graf Cemetery, not even buried there. He's interred somewhere else. I love that. I was like, so the cemetery is named after you, and you decided to be buried somewhere else.
He's very humble, okay?
Wow.
That'd just be weird if he was buried. All the other ghosts would think that he's special, so he just decided to go somewhere else.
But it's a very old cemetery, and it's one that you can visit it, but you have to be kind of aware that there's people's houses around it too. So they just ask you to be like, be kind, don't go out there and be dumb, because some people do that.
If you ever go to a cemetery, be kind, have respect,
right?
Please.
But there's only 31 headstones there, and the oldest one is 1797.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a very old family cemetery that doesn't have the dude buried in it that's named after.
Yeah. I do like a good cemetery. I mean, probably because when I grew up, I lived in a converted vicarage across the road from a cemetery. So I've always found them deeply fascinating places. I like to, if I go anywhere, I always have to, and there's one in close proximity because you can just walk into them here in the UK. Apart from a few notorious ones like Highgate Cemetery.
Yes.
With the vampire.
Heck yeah.
Yes.
Once I get mine started, maybe you'll have to come visit.
That's actually not a threat.
Yeah, I'm legitimately looking to start a business in doing cemetery work.
Hey, well, it's guaranteed money. Like taxes, death is one of the only guarantees in life, sadly.
Yep.
Yeah, that was quite funny because when I was in London, I was watching telly Sunday night, and they had a documentary about the whole Highgate vampire cemetery kerfuffle, which is a crazy story. If you don't know much about it, I recommend diving into it, and then you'll just shake your head and think, Jesus Christ. The hell was going on there? Wizards fighting in the streets? What?
You're going to have me going down all these rabbit holes while I'm up tonight. Looking up Russian scientists and British vampires and wizards. And
yeah. All I'll say to you is the Reverend Sean Manchester isn't a reverend. So take everything else he says with a very large pinch of salt.
I'm just gonna ask you one question.
Mm-hmm.
Bigfoot in the UK? Yes or no?
No.
That's it. Anyway,
Yep.
so our
Asked and answered.
I have a follow-up question.
no, there's no follow-up.
What is your favorite cryptid?
Oh, that's actually a decent question.
Ooh. I would have to say I absolutely love the Yowie.
Ah.
And you have a great episode about the Yowie.
Yeah, I've done 3 on the Yowie and kind of touched on it when I spoke with Tony Healy as well. But yeah, I did a recent one with Yowie Dan. Done 3 with him and one with what was he called? A chap called Nick. One of my early episodes. But the one with Yowie Dan, I think was about 165, episode 165, because they've just done a brilliant new film called Track, which is a documentary about them going out into the Blue Mountains, which is a real Yowie hotspot down there. So yeah, I love the stories of the Yowies because Aussies are very salt of the earth people, and if a big butch trucker tells you that they've seen an 8-foot creature run across the road in front of them, I tend to think, they probably have.
Yowie's not one you hear a lot.
No, it's not.
I love that episode with Yowie Dan. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah. Great guy. And they've got they're about to release their follow-up to Track. So keep your eye out. That should be out this side of Christmas, I hope.
Oh, sweet. All right. We're going to take our break for our featured music today, which comes from, this is going to be interesting, guys, because, all right. So it's Fleischkrieg, which is technically a German band, but they are based here in Los Angeles. So not exactly local.
Close enough.
But listen, the song is called Owl Light. I thought it was appropriate. It's also really freaking cool. So if you're into German industrial, have a listen. And when we come back, we will talk to Paul about Mysteries and Monsters. And that's about it, really, because I'm not going to talk about us. You guys hear about us all the time.
You arrive, offered to save us all. Now eyes all reconniving. Worried, what do we lies. Nothing to see outside. The roads have gone away. Body sight, a steel cage. Doesn't blink an eye. My father say, oh, to open the radio.
Welcome back. The key is to not fight and to just go for it.
We almost did it in unison. That's the problem.
Stereo.
Right? Cut that into mono and like have one in one ear, one in the other.
Some weird ASMR going on there.
Anyway, yeah.
How come the boys don't laugh at that?
Come on, JC. Get us out the gutter. You're good at that.
Yep.
Kiki, I feel like
there it is.
It's some awkward silence.
She says things to get me and Cord to go into the gutter. Like it's like she's poking a bear. Like she knows what she's doing.
But does the bear have mange?
That it caught off an owl.
This has been like 3 hours of tangent and very with some stories in between.
Welcome to my normal world.
It's just, how can you explain everything away as it's an animal with mange? Like, just
through the cracks of our rant, we do have an episode here. That's
I think it's important to be skeptical about stuff, but when you're I just can't understand that. Like it's more plausible to me that it is an alien being than it is a baby albino moose with mange. Like
in Massachusetts.
yeah.
I mean, if it was in Ontario, that would be a different story.
Probably, but I mean, then you get fingers, right?
I think you should always be skeptical about anything. However, just because you're skeptical doesn't mean that any old nonsense is a plausible explanation of it.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing the other way. A skeptic shouldn't accept just the first answer because it's the first answer.
Yeah. You'll still see it all the time. It's like people talk stories about people dropping great white sharks into lakes around the US, and you point out to them that that's biologically impossible and the shark would die.
Yeah.
And then you point out that maybe it could have been a bull shark because they can actually survive in fresh water. And then they go, no, it was a great white. And you say, well, that's nonsense then. It's not true. It can't be true.
Right.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
I've given you a way out and you've still stuck to the nonsense. So good luck with that. Because you've got the incident that Jaws is based on. That's in the New England area, isn't it?
Yes.
And they were two bull sharks. That was a bull shark that came up a river and killed those teenagers.
That was actually New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jersey will say that they're not part of New England.
Well, it's named after a part of the UK.
Exactly.
You and your Jersey conspiracy.
That's a
Theoretically, we live like 30 minutes from New Jersey, and I refuse to acknowledge its existence.
So I once witnessed somebody have an argument that Australia was in Europe, and after about an hour, they realised that they were arguing about Austria.
Austria, yeah.
Oh my!
And I was like, they don't even speak English in Austria. They speak German, and he was going about Australians, and I was like, well, they speak English. Well, and then his point was, why do they speak English if they don't live in Europe? I said, where's France?
What? What does that even mean?
Exactly. I was very confused.
You and me both.
Oh my god.
But believe it or not, that same argument was made by someone who my sister worked with. She was insistent that she found out that her relatives were actually Australian. And she went on forever and ever and ever until finally she started talking about food. And my sister was like, you're not Australian, you're Austrian.
Schnitzel's not. They don't eat schnitzel in Perth. What are you talking about?
Unless it's a German restaurant.
The Perth delicacy schnitzel.
Hold on. Let me text my friend who lives in Perth. I swear to God. I'll be like, you guys eat schnitzel.
They're gonna be like, yeah, we love it over here.
Throw another schnitzel on the barbie.
Yeah. I'm gonna send that audio clip to my friend Dan.
That was good.
He's gonna die.
I'm gonna pass out, dude.
We were doing an Australia kind of episode thing. So I texted him and I was like, hey Dan, I'm like, can you go visit this place? Like, how far away is this hotel from where you live? I'm just because I didn't Google it.
3,000 miles, no, in Australia.
Dude. Yeah. He was like, I'd go, but it would take me 5.5 hours to drive one way. It's like, yeah, I realized that after I texted you, and then I Googled it and was like, yeah, no, he can't go visit that for us.
A lot of people do forget just how bloody big Australia is. It's massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge.
There's a joke there, but I'm not going to say anything.
Good.
Anyway, so, Paul, where can we find your amazing talent?
Well, thank you very much. And thank you so much for a wonderful couple of hours of random tangents that I've fully embraced and gone along with. So thank you very much for putting up with me.
Thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Yes,
my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much. So you can find Mysteries and Monsters across all podcast platforms and across all social media networks. So just look for Mysteries and Monsters and you will find all 210 episodes so far.
It's impressive. We aren't at 100 yet, but we're getting there, baby.
So close. We're so close.
Not everybody's a glutton for punishment like me. Even COVID couldn't keep me off. I've had a Victorian disease and still managed to do it. when I got Quincy. I've had COVID, frozen shoulder, still not missed a week. So no excuses out there, losers.
COVID brought me into the game.
True.
Yeah. If you listen, strangely, as you were mentioning about Anna earlier, if you listen to, I think it was her last appearance. No, it wasn't her last appearance. The appearance before last. If you listen to my intro, you will hear me going, "This week on Mysteries and Monsters," because that I had to do the intro for it, and I was 5 days into COVID, so I'd only just been able to start talking properly again, even though it sounds like I'm a troll or something. So yeah, that's why you should always have backup episodes recorded, because you never know what's about to bite you on the backside, which is what happened when I did my first interview with Morgan Daimler, and then 3 days later I was in hospital with Quincy.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Which is a feeling. And that, strangely enough, they gave me such powerful painkillers that some fairies came to visit me at 5 o'clock before I passed out unconscious, smiling.
Ooh.
That's what fairies do, you know.
Yeah, I think they gave me the magic, to be honest. Came to check on me. That was a fun night, that.
And you also are, most of our listeners probably know by now that you're also one half of the Ghost Story guys.
Yes, yeah. Almost 2 years now.
I know.
Incredibly. So,
right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know. So, yeah, do that as well with Bren, and obviously help him as pull all kinds of crazy stories together, and we get some lovely correspondence from listeners and things. I really do enjoy that. It lets me lighten up, and I don't have to sort of beat myself up to do research. I can just kind of dive into the scripts and stuff. So Bren does all the heavy lifting on that bit. So it's great fun. And as you may have gathered today, the show may last an hour and a half, but usually we talk for 4 hours. So
Yeah,
dude.
So I think when I started on the show, Bren was usually doing hour-long episodes, and now we tend to be nearer 2. So because we just disappear down many a rabbit hole and tangent. So it's great fun, and obviously it's been a wonderful relationship. Bren's been very supportive since I started podcasting and helped me out a lot. And obviously I'm deeply humbled to have written the foreword for his new book, the re-release and updated version of A Strange Little Place.
It's on its way to me right now.
So yeah, I was very humbled to be asked to do that. So that was rather nice. And then I've had several other things in the pipeline. So I've been offered a column in a paranormal publication, and we'll see what happens with that as well. So and my first live invitation as well next year. I've been asked to speak at a paranormal conference here in the UK for my first one as well. So yeah, it's a very nice end to the year.
So that's for 2023.
Yeah, September 2023.
Awesome.
So I'm going to wait until I get invited to a Bigfoot conference.
Well,
Buy me in.
Yeah, we have a Bigfoot.
I'm gonna do
out
it.
this way, right?
I am going to make you come to Albatwitch Day at least.
Albatwitch Day. That's
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many things. I'm insanely jealous. I often think I was born in the wrong country these days, because I especially where I live, and my obsession with American cryptids as well. So I've got no excuse, because I've got family not far from you guys over the border in London, in Canada. So it's all pretty close, really, and I've got invitations to go Bigfooting in the Pacific Northwest and down in Texas and Florida and stuff. So I'm going to have to come back to the States, because I've not been for nearly 20 years now.
Yeah, we got you covered if you come down to Philly. So
I will definitely come. I've got to try a proper cheesesteak.
right. Yes, not
About that.
Not
We're
at
looking
Pat
at
and
you.
Gino's.
Yeah, don't go to those
That's
tourist
for the tourists.
We'll get you a real cheesesteak.
Yeah, we'll steer you in the right direction.
Right.
Yeah. I'll do rocky steps and cheese steak.
But the best is when you have like a hot pretzel, like kind of in your like wrapped around your finger in one hand, and then you got the cheesesteak in the other, and you're on the art steps, and yeah, you're golden.
Yeah.
Take a photo, boom.
Yeah. See, I'm one of those weird English people that loves pretzels.
See, I love a good hot pretzel.
I love me a pretzel.
So who's coming up?
So my next episode will be with the author Carol Scott, talking about the cryptids of Oceania, which is a subject I've not really touched on outside of Australia. So I'm looking forward to that. And then the following week, Lyle Blackburn is returning to talk about his latest book, Bigfoot in Texas.
Oh, nice. Lyle's awesome. All right, so taking us out today again is going to be Fleischkrieg with their song Owl Light, and you can find all their music on Bandcamp and they're on Spotify. And as always, stay spooky and don't die. But if you do, contact us.
And I would recommend scrolling a message in owl blood on a naked cryptid you can't explain.
On the road, often save us all. Our lives are way behind the wheel. Our fate so insane. The owl rise, castle of light. I want to feel shine all over the void. My father side, hold on to on the radio. Nobody likes to be afraid. Come to steal your life tonight. Body sight, headlight makes a believer. My father's side, hold on to on the radio. Nobody likes to be afraid. On the right to say, my father's side, my father's side.
Thanks again for listening to Scary Time by Indie Drop-In Network. If you would like to nominate a scary or paranormal podcast to be featured, just send me a tweet at Indie Drop-In. I'd also love to hear if one of our featured podcasts is now your favorite show. Indie Drop-In survives off ad revenue and listener donations. If you would like to contribute, please consider buying me a coffee. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/Indie Drop-In. If you look at the very bottom of the episode description, you will see a link to make it easy. Indie Drop-In also has many other shows you might like. Just go to indiedropin.com. See you next week.